Avengers Endgame was a beyond special experience in cinemas. It feels like yesterday as well as an eternity ago, but the truth is, it's 5 years, almost to the day. While the first wave of LEGO sets wasn't that great, they did provide us with these funny looking dudes, the Avengers in their nano-suits, which is exactly what we'll look at today. Now, I realized fairly late into this whole process that reviewing these figures might get a little stale since they essentially all have the same torso and legs. So expect the segments for all the following figures to be a little shorter, but I'll take my time with the first, and remember as always to subscribe and drop your opinion on these in the comments. But now on to the first figure. Iron Man only appeared in the Iron Man and Dummy polybag and goes for around $4 on the aftermarket. The suit he's wearing here is their time travel nano-suit. LEGO based their designs on concept art but came pretty close to the actual look. To start off with, he's got toe and hip printing, especially nowadays. Even leg printing is becoming rather sparse on most Marvel figures, so this level of commitment is nice. The legs are mainly made up of a carbon fiber-like pattern that transitions over the hip, onto the torso and into the armpits, with red and light grey exiting the rest of the torso, and of course, we can't forget the Avengers logo on his chest. To be completely honest, the transition of the fiber from legs to hips to torso is probably the weakest here, since it's supposed to be one piece, but because of all the white in between, it feels too disconnected in my opinion. The back looks pretty spectacular though, with the fiber-like texturing taking up a lot of space, as well as more armory silver parts leading all the way to his neck. The helmet uses the standard Iron Man helmet from back then, utilizing blue eyes to signify the nano-suit nature of his suit. If you lift up the flap and get a look at his face, you can spot the interface we can see in the movies during shots from inside his helmet. It definitely looks neat, but even if you don't like it, the alternative face is just a normal one featuring RDJ's typical smirk. I think we'll look at the figure with similar features next, War Machine. This figure appeared in the War Machine Buster, which retailed for $35, and by now it's worth around $7. Rhodey uses the same body as Tony, so we don't have to go over that again, but in addition he also has his back-mounted gun. This is definitely one of the worst versions of it so far though. I get it's a stud shooter and you can actually shoot with it, but this shit sucks ass. The new ones do it really well, this one doesn't, but at least the helmet looks decent. It's still not great, especially because the lower part of the flap looks odd with the black going too far up. Beneath the helmet there's another Iron Man interface, and the alternative face is also quite good, definitely better than some of the others we've gotten over the years. Our next figure comes from the very same set, that being Ant-Man obviously. Nowadays the figure is worth around $5, so as you can see they didn't become that expensive. Once again he's using the same body, but the helmet is a different one. In fact, this is the first time any Ant-Man figure has used this helmet. It's also the last Ant-Man figure we've gotten, maybe because the helmet was so terrible. The other figures used elaborate dual molded pieces, while for this one, LEGO just slapped the print onto a helmet that looked somewhat similar to the in-universe one. The helmet does also change in the movie, but it never looks like this. It's not translucent in certain areas anymore and just sucks. Underneath it we have two faces that are also pretty bad. It looks nothing like Paul Rudd and it's actually the same one later used for Tom Holland's Spider-Man. I would go as far as to say that the microscale version of him even is better. This one appeared in the Avengers Compound Battle and sells for about $1 on the aftermarket. It featured all the same design aspects as the normal size figures and the head actually looks good, unlike on the other Ant-Man figure. Obviously it doesn't make too much sense to have a shrunk, nanotech Ant-Man, but these figures were based on concept art anyways. Our next figure is Nebula. Just like the Ant-Man microfigure, she's also from the Avengers Compound Battle, but goes for a little more than just $1, $4. Same suit as on the other figures and just a unique head. The dark azure as a base color is fairly accurate, but I don't get how they keep fucking up the middle part. On every figure it's blue, but not in the movies. It's always purple. Sure, in the beginning I get getting the colors wrong, but this character was already 5 years old when this figure released. I'm a big fan of all the details around the head though, imitating the combination of organic parts and mechanical ones implanted in her by Thanos. Especially the left eye looks sick with the bionic enhancements around it, but again, the area surrounding it shouldn't be blue, it should be orange. It's not just a design choice, it's actually an important story point in the movie differentiating 2023 Nebula from her 2014 version. They fixed it with a holiday special figure, but that didn't come out until 3 years later. Next up, we've got Steve Rogers, aka Captain America. This minifig featured in the Captain America Outriders Attack, retailing for $20, and by now this figure is worth about $4. We have the same suit once more, but the head is actually something special. When this figure came out back in 2019, there had never been a Captain America figure with an actual helmet. There had been mock-ups and whatever, but for the first time we actually got a version with a helmet piece. On the front there's a white A of course, and to each side it's also sporting the white wings we see on his helmet. Below it we have what looks like a blue balaclava, which in my opinion is brilliant. I don't like the versions with just a light nougat head underneath, it just feels so incomplete. The dark blue base color though does distort the colors printed onto it, leading to cap becoming really white, like far more than the usual flesh tone. It's nothing too major, especially since both faces still look decent and there's no issues with the helmet covering stuff like eyes, the mouth or anything else important. Thor, the last member of the big three, is our next figure. He appeared in the Avengers Ultimate Quinjet and goes for about $4 in the aftermarket. This is one of the few short-haired variants of Thor LEGO has released over the years, and in my opinion it was a very smart choice to go with the medium nougat. Many previous versions used bright light yellow and following ones used dark tan, and that would have worked as well, maybe even better, but I do like this color too. To get the elephant out of the way now, this version is of course incredibly inaccurate, but they kept Thor's weight gain a secret until the release of the movie, so LEGO was put in a pickle here. We did get Fat Thor just about 2 years later, and he looked really good, but nonetheless, this figure is still fun. The face looks good and quite accurate to Chris Hemsworth, but the highlight for me is the alternative face. In the movie, when he powers up, it looks so sick, and they did the electricity so well here with the reflective blue and the plain white eyes. Up next is Thor's rabbit friend Rocket Raccoon. Just like him, this figure is also part of the Avengers Ultimate Quinjet and nowadays sells for around $8. Since he is significantly shorter than the others, he does use short legs as well as a tail like he has in the movie. As you can see, it's grey. His head is grey too. If we look at Rocket from the movie, he very much isn't grey. It's the same case as with Nebula earlier. Rocket has been brown since the first movie, but in every set he appeared until 2021, he was grey. I get that raccoons are traditionally grey, black and white, but at some point it had to have become obvious that Rocket doesn't match that. Or, well, it obviously didn't. Still, I really like this headpiece, the integration of shoulder pads was great, and I love gunmetal grey as a color, so that's a plus for me. The white detailing, especially around the ears, is nice, and actually one of the few accurate things in his face. Speaking of not so great faces, let's look at Clint Barton, better known as Hawkeye. Just like the previous ones, this one featured in the Avengers Ultimate Quinjet, but is only worth around $6. It's Hawkeye, so of course he has a quiver, but all in all, as much as I have complained about some figures so far, this is definitely the worst. Thor, Rocket may have been inaccurate, but at least they look good. This one might be somewhat accurate, but it sucks. The hair is the wrong color, it's the same old as Thor's, even though they don't look anything alike. The face isn't great either, neither of the two, and Hawkeye is definitely one of the figures that has suffered the most on its recent versions that simply stomped this one. Also from that same set as the previous three figures, Black Widow. From all the characters, she's the one to wear the nano-suit the fewest times, but appears in the most sets. She doesn't just feature in the Avengers Ultimate Quinjet, but also in the Avengers Hulk Helicopter Rescue. Maybe because of that, the figure is only worth about $3. It's truly far from outstanding. The hair is not accurate to what we see in Natasha Sport in the movie, it's neither the right color nor hairstyle. The face is okay, the alternative face isn't great either, but she's still somewhat better than the Hawkeye. Really, these two always get the short end of the stick compared to the big four, and that just sucks. Nowadays, these two have some really good figures, but it took nearly a decade. So for our last figure for today, we have the last member of the big four, Hulk. This figure is part of the Avengers Hulk Helicopter Rescue and sells for around about $20 nowadays. It also wasn't part of the first Endgame wave, but instead released circa half a year later. Something I criticized previously here is the transition of the fiber from the legs to the arms, and that was done significantly better here, of course due to it being one piece. The face does look kind of odd, especially because this would technically be Smart Hulk by now, and he definitely has a stubble, but we have to remember none of these are really that accurate anyways. Sadly, we don't have any back printing, and with everything said, this figure shouldn't be that great, but it's just such a unique Hulk variant that I still really like it. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and until next time, goodbye.